Okay, welcome everyone to today's webinar presented by New Readers Press and Tad Wamester from Voxy EnGen. Tad will be presenting today on best practices for virtual and blended English as a second language teaching. So everyone who joins today will receive a follow-up email from me. My name is Dan Helms, so watch for that. It will contain a copy of the presentation slides today, a certificate of participation, and a link to the recording. I should have that out to you by Monday. So again, on behalf of New Readers Press, thank you for joining us today. And now, here's Tad.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Really looking forward to today's conversation. I hope you find it useful. We're going to talk about a lot of different topics related to English as a second language instruction in different contexts, but with a focus on virtual and blended programs. I do encourage you to ask questions along the way. You can put those in the chat or the Q&A. I won't have it open all the time, but Dan, if you see anything important that you want to interrupt me, please feel free to do so. Also, we can save questions for the end and just have more of a discussion. But let's get started. So again, my name is Tad Wamester. I'm from the Voxy EnGen team. I'm Director of Partnership Development and work closely with ProLiteracy and New Readers Press on a number of programs. I'm going to talk to you today about EnGen and virtual and blended ESOL instruction. If you're interested in EnGen, please reach out to your New Readers Press rep to learn more about opportunities to include this in your programs. A little bit about me. I've been working with immigrants and refugees in workforce development and educational programs for about 14 years now. I've done a lot with upskilling programs and skilled immigrant inclusion programs. And I do work with programs across the US that are implementing EnGen to provide career pathways, to accelerate proficiency gains, and to offer more flexible programs. I want to set the stage today and talk about why this is so important. Sorry, we could skip the slide. There we are, the agenda. So I want to set the stage, discuss why this matters, give you an introduction and an overview to EnGen, talk about effective language learning programs and blended learning programs. We'll discuss digital literacy and working with employers, and also measuring outcomes. So we're going to cover a lot of bases today. I hope you find this useful, not only in your program development, but also in having discussions with partners and employers. So setting the stage and thinking about why is this important? Well, we are in a major shift in the workforce. We all know that there are many baby boomers that are reaching retirement age by 2030. So that's over the next, coming up on about 8 years. And all 73 million baby boomers will reach this age reach the age of 65 by 2030. And why this is important is with so many workers, so many employees exiting the workforce, we have to think about where employers are going to be able to find workers, employees to replace those, to meet their talent needs in the jobs of the future. And this statistic is very important. 97% of net workforce growth will be immigrants and the children of immigrants. So we have to really think about diversity and inclusion efforts, because this is where the employers, where the educational programs are going to find their students and workers. And adult education programs are so critical to connecting employers with this talent pool that is so critical for them to meet their business needs and their talent needs for the future. We have a solution to all of these talent shortages, and they are in our communities right now. You know many of them as your students. So new American growth is accelerating over not only the past, but over the, the future coming years as a share of our total population. And at the same time, we see employers that are facing unprecedented talent shortages. This is not a new trend. However, the pandemic has accelerated it. Many individuals who were delaying retirement or who were coming up on retirement age chose to leave the workforce. And we are seeing this in critical sectors, whether that be manufacturing, education, healthcare. These workers are leaving the workforce. And actually, for the first time in several decades, we have more jobs open than job seekers. There are over 9 million open positions in the United States right now. And when I talk to adult education programs across the US, they are hearing this in their communities, that employers are looking for workers, are looking for talent. Community college programs that, have in-demand certificates, they're looking for students to, fill these seats, to earn these certifications, and to, meet the needs of employers in their communities. And at the same time, limited English proficiency immigrants, they are in our communities, and many of them are highly educated with high school and college degrees. We're talking about millions of individuals. But we have to think about how are we getting them the language skills, and also sometimes the technical skills and certifications that will help to meet these talent shortages. Also, thinking about workplace literacy programs, and this is something that I really encourage adult education programs to engage their employer community. Because if you can support, training up, upskilling their workers, this delivers so much value in terms of employee retention, employee development. It is so much more efficient. And there's such a greater ROI from investing in, upskilling, giving language skills to workers. It delivers so much value for the employer community. And adult education partners can help to make those programs successful, because we all know it's not easy to do this work. And so I want to share more about, what EnGen is. So there is a readiness gap that exists between language learning programs and, career training and college, higher education. So with this gap, we have to think about how are we enabling these transitions? How are we helping learners to get ready for college and careers? And that's really what Voxy EnGen is. It is a tool to create that bridge, to deliver that vocational English training that can help learners to make that transition to higher education and CTE trainings, and to accelerate that journey. Because we all know that adult learners often need to work, sometimes more than one job. And so if we can help them to quickly connect with career training, proficiency gains, higher education, they're able to not only get a job, but to get a career, to connect with career advancement opportunities. So we want to help you to do that through the technology that we offer and the content and curriculum. So these are some of the programs that we see Voxy EnGen being very successfully utilized within through adult education, community colleges, libraries. They can support on-ramp to career pathway programs, career and technical areas that are highly in demand and will result in good paying jobs, whether those be in technology, manufacturing, healthcare, and other in-demand sectors. Bridge programs that support again, that transition to college, higher education, community college. Fill in the gaps that someone needs to connect with, GED training. There are other opportunities, pre-apprenticeship programs. I'm a big fan of apprenticeships. These are earn and learn opportunities, where workers can connect with, in-demand career pathways. They offer the potential for, accelerated and competency-based models. And, I really do think that there's an opportunity. It's aligned with diversity and inclusion initiatives. Vocational English programs can be effective pre-apprenticeships that prepare learners for those earn and learn opportunities. And then we also have integrated education and training, career pathway programs, where we're bringing together that, basic skills development and language development alongside technical training. And the, vast content library that EnGen offers, can allow programs to launch multiple different sector-specific IETs and pre-IET or IET transitions. So what is EnGen? Well, it is important to, to set the stage. We are a social impact organization. We have a mission of increasing equity and access to language training, technical training, and career opportunities at scale. We do this through partners like ProLiteracy and New Readers Press, as well as the network that they serve, from the adult education and, literacy program community. So what is EnGen? It is a web and mobile personalized learning experience, and it adapts based on learners' proficiency level, their native language, their career goals and interest areas, as well as their ongoing performance. It's a program that is easy to run, and the ProLiteracy team provides, that hands-on support as you're implementing the program, building out new, blended learning programs, career pathway programs, because the platform does have career-specific courses, and these range across professions, whether it's customer service, hospitality, technology, and manufacturing. We have those career pathway courses, and all of the content is developed from real-world materials. So it's authentic. It comes from videos, audio clips, news articles, current events, as well as technical training materials. The platform transforms that training material into language lessons that are accessible by speakers of other languages. And the platform does support translation of keywords for literally dozens of different languages. I think there are 68 different languages that are supported with the translation features for keyword and context. And that list is growing. We're actually adding to that list right now. And so what you can see as an organization implementing this program, you can see that performance visibility in terms of time on task, the lessons, units, and courses that your learners are completing, the end of unit assessment scores, and this can really help you to understand, is someone ready to make that transition to the career pathway program? All of this information is available in the command center. And there is a proficiency assessment that's included as well that can support, pre and post testing, can help you to understand those measurable skill gains that your learners are making, whether they be in an educational program or a workplace literacy program. We think of language training differently. So we think of English training like it's acquiring a skill, not necessarily studying a content area. And so if you're learning to cook, it's not just reading a textbook or reading a cookbook. with different recipes in it, you have to practice. You have to, measure ingredients, follow directions, preheat your oven. There's so much that goes into cooking. And that is, that's learning a skill. And, along with any skill, there's going to be, failures and lessons learned and feedback given. And it's an active learning process. And that's why language learning is fastest in an immersive environment, where you do have that context, that feedback. So we really think that learning a language is more similar to, learning to cook than studying a content area. We utilize task-based language teaching. So everything is contextualized with relevant, up-to-date information. Learners are understanding, what they want to do with English. This incorporates career exploration. And if you can zoom in, you can see that this learner is studying to be a certified nursing assistant. So that course was actually developed directly from a video-based CNA training program. There are multiple different levels of this pathway in the platform. So this is, ready-made for you to create a, CNA, IET training program. And there are other healthcare-related career pathways, which I'll discuss a little bit later in today's session. We also truly believe that a blended approach works best. We don't replace teachers. We give them new tools to accelerate learning, to support career pathway development. And so, and we're adding new functionality to support teachers. So not only assigning courses and units, but individual lessons. And we see some of our most successful programs actively using this as homework, actively using those career pathway courses to enable career exploration and those career pathway transitions. We utilize all real-world materials, and this is so important for virtual, blended, and even in-person ESOL programs, because they relate to the learner's real-world goals. It provides context, and the language training reinforces workplace requirements. It is immediately able to be put to use in the workplace and gives learners valuable skills. You can see on the right-hand side of the page, this learner is enrolled in the basic nursing course, but they also, you can assign up to 3 courses for a learner. So, they have access to this COVID-19 safety course. And while it's unlikely that a learner is in the CNA course and also in the e-commerce warehousing course, it just shows you that there's a wide variety of available content in the platform. As I mentioned, more and more employers are getting interested in workplace literacy programs, and this presents a real opportunity for adult education programs to partner. Training, language skills in the workplace is so important because it relates to, safety. It relates to their everyday job. It can, they can improve their performance. Lessons that are engaging and motivating. Obviously, adult learners learn what they want to learn and what they need to learn. So the more that it is relevant and motivating, learners get authentic experiences to put this learning to use, and adult education partners can easily track that performance and activity using technology. And what this all results in is that English skills are rapidly developed. Learners can practice them and put them right to use in the workplace. And there's a huge amount of value that is delivered to the employer in terms of retention and development. This is going to enable promotion and advancement. It immediately improves morale, communication, confidence, and engagement of the workforce. And, right now we are actively talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion programs and providing, English skills, especially in the workplace and that relate to career opportunities. This is a critical component of diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. So I encourage you to talk about that with your partners, with employers in your community, because you can deliver a huge amount of value. So let's really think about the past year and a half and what has gone on. Now, research on distance and blended learning has been going on for decades. However, the pandemic, created a situation where so many practitioners had to rapidly make that shift to online. And this, many practitioners were unprepared to make this shift so quickly. Did they have the tools in place for effective distance learning? We do know a lot about how to structure these programs. And right now we have an opportunity to improve access, equity, and inclusion by taking what we know and what we've learned and building the programs for the future. Because many new models are emerging. And, this is something that I learned from experience. I worked at a nonprofit organization for about a decade, and we actually went through this digital transformation. We went through that transformation pretty early on. So we were a national initiative that was looking to grow into new geographies, and was working with adult learners that had, varying schedules. And I knew that my classroom model, where I was, going to be in the same place at the same time, and all the learners had to come to me, it was a real challenge for achieving scale through that model. And so as we tested out, using webinars, tracking those webinars and actually counting them for class time, and then actually using an LMS to deliver that training asynchronously, what we experienced was very rapid program growth in terms of the number of students we were impacting, their graduation rates. They had so many more opportunities to make up classes that they had missed. So we had the luxury of doing that, over several years, testing out models, refining them. And so now is the time to really reflect on the last year and a half and to think about how we're building those flexible hybrid models that leverage both synchronous and asynchronous instruction. Technology is key here to personalization, and personalization is so important. In your programs, I would imagine that, even at a certain proficiency level, you have learners with different educational backgrounds, different native languages. Some of those learners will have, degrees and, work experience from their native country. So how do you help them, and how do you help a diverse classroom to learn the English that they need? Well, technology can play a key role in that personalization. It can improve, equity and inclusion initiatives, and support economic mobility for these learners as they fill critical talent shortages in their community. Technology can enable effective and efficient programs. So again, personalization is so important. You can easily track and measure learners' engagement, their completion. This can support moving learners rapidly into real-world workforce development programs. Technology eliminates the barriers of space and time. It's not just when a classroom isn't available or when a teacher isn't available. You can build more flexible models, which is so important for adult learners. And again, you can provide on-ramps to career development opportunities, advancement, and this is even for working adults. The more that they have, language skills in place, the more internal career development programs that they can connect with. So I want to talk about some best practices for setting up and executing online environments. Well, you want to think about how are you structuring these environments to foster language learning? How are you building in collaboration and building a community amongst your learners? The hardest part is getting started. So really think about, how you're providing upfront support to learners. And actually the blend of the program may change over the semester. As more classrooms and labs are reopening, really think about that blend and how you can make it more flexible. But that upfront, support, whether it's, sending videos and screenshots, or whether it's providing, lab support, in a computer lab. The more that you build that in upfront, especially for those learners with digital literacy challenges, the more effective the programs will be over the long run. Technology should enhance the language learning process. It should provide learners with content that directly relates to their goals, their interests, because again, the more that it's relevant to their goals and interests, the more engaged they'll be, and the more that it will actually impact, long-term employment outcomes. You want to solve the problems that are inherent with face-to-face classes. So it's not just, transferring over to Zoom classes that are along the traditional, schedule or model. You want to incorporate both asynchronous and synchronous instruction. Think about how you're supporting students. Think about how you're leveraging tools like breakout rooms, WhatsApp. How are you meeting the learners where they are and creating more peer learning and group learning opportunities? Technology can enable you to monitor activity, connect that to individual learners' goals, because as we know, in a classroom, even if they're all at the intermediate level, they're going to have a wide range of educational backgrounds and career goals. So again, that personalization is so important. Push learners to engage in virtual experiences, whether that be in breakout rooms or in discussion boards, but also use this to create teachable moments, because it's important to understand good online practices, so you can talk about the use of social media, what's appropriate online, and actually help your learners to make that, digital transformation in their own life. Again, track those outcomes, understand what are your success measures, so that are you achieving the program's goals as well? Learning moved quickly online. We didn't have time to prepare for this. The pandemic sped this, and new educational models have emerged for blended, hybrid mode programs, high flex models. So there's so much to learn from your peers. Flexibility and access to technology is important. So think about, are the programs that you're building, are they, accessible on mobile devices? But there have also been a lot of challenges that have come about through this shift. And this is some statistics from the National Skills Coalition. And so I want to point out to you that blue section on the right-hand side of the page, they estimate from their research that 40% of English language learners have no digital skills, and another 27% have limited digital literacy skills. This, the pandemic has really brought to the forefront that we can't ignore digital literacy skills. We have to teach those upfront. So even if the purpose of our program is, English language learning, it's important to enable those learners with digital skills, because this opens up more learning opportunities for them. And also it opens up, financial services, access to future training. So the more that you can build those digital literacy skills up front, you're really benefiting your learners and setting them up for future success in the workplace and in other educational settings. Digital skills are not just a prerequisite for learning, and using LMSs, whether that's a Moodle or a Canvas, but also the vast majority of jobs require digital skills and using technology. Whether that's in an e-commerce warehouse, whether that's, in food service, in hospitality, or whether it is, in environmental services. Virtually every job is using technology. And the more that learners have digital skills with email, using technology, the more equipped they are to fill those jobs and the better position they are to take career advancement opportunities. So how do we address this? Well, the Voxy EnGen, the entire platform is mobile friendly. We have iPhone and Android apps. So learners, really can access the training on any device: computers, tablets, laptops, and mobile devices. We've also built comprehensive digital literacy and business skills courses that cover some of those email and computer basics. We also integrate English skills with, technology skills and career pathways, so learners can connect with ongoing training. This is going to benefit them, both now and over their lifespan, because the more that we can open up new in-demand, career pathways to them and digital skills, the better off these learners will be in terms of their economic mobility and career advancement. I want to think through, and this is a sample career pathway program. This is thinking about how do you build that foundation for beginner learners? Well, there are courses that relate to digital literacy, also beginner, business skills around work emails, phone calls, meetings, and even remote work. And after that foundation is built, and it can be rapidly built, learners can flow into, career pathway courses in customer service, tech, healthcare, and other in-demand sectors. We just recently launched an entrepreneurship pathway earlier in the summer, which I really hope more programs will be utilizing. And also last week, we launched a pharmacy tech pathway. And we also have English for automotive that is launching later in the month. So please reach out to your New Readers Press representative to understand, what career pathways are offered on the EnGen platform and how you have access to all of that career pathway content. So when you get seats to EnGen, you don't just have one course, your learners have access to everything. You can configure different career pathways and different journeys for levels of students and the different programs that you're offering. I like to share this slide because it talks about, what are the criteria, what are the questions to ask when you're building a workplace English program? So who is training, who is getting trained? What are the different language levels that are in the workplace? Do you need to build out different programs for different populations of learners? Why are they learning English? So is it so that they can, be promoted? They can access other internal training opportunities? Is it related to workplace safety? We actually have a great general industry safety course that comes directly from OSHA training materials. What do they need to learn? Is it reading and writing skills? Is it speaking and listening? We do see that so often writing skills can make the difference between someone who can be promoted. They may have to, write up reports. And also the stronger someone's English skills are, the more likely that they can, go into management roles, that they can take on supervisory roles. And then also think about, what model will work best. Is this being delivered in the workplace? And I encourage, partnership with adult education programs. because you have that experience and knowledge around instruction, working with diverse learners, and you can leverage technology and potentially all of the content that we have to offer. These are some of the universal requirements for a successful workplace English program. An internal champion who's engaged, actually going through that needs analysis and understand who you're serving, what's the purpose of this program, who are the learners, what are the objectives of the program, who will be partnering on this, what are the funding sources, because we want this to be sustainable, and also what are the success metrics or the KPIs, so that you understand at the end of a program, how do we measure ourselves on success. And I want to talk about a couple of examples and effective models that have been able to scale. This is an example of a workplace English program where the workers were, manufacturing. They were in a food production workplace. Some of the skills that they needed were safety, obviously communication skills, and also, some of the courses that were available to them, like the workplace, workplace machinery course. This training, along with, forklift operation, directly relates to advancement opportunities in the workplace. So they did see workers who were able to advance, and these learners were, for the most part, beginners. So it was really amazing to see how, even though there was some, championship and, work that had to be done upfront to get people, enrolled and engaged, once they had access to learning on their phone, they were able to, quickly complete courses and make proficiency gains. This is a program at the University of Maryland. It has since expanded multiple times. This was a pilot, and they had initially done, face-to-face classes with these learners, but it was very difficult because the campus was dispersed. The learners were coming in at different proficiency levels. And so when they brought this program online, and this was pre-pandemic, learners were really actively engaging with the content, on average consuming 22 hours time on task per learner over a short time period. They were completing units and actually having strong achievement test scores. This is expanded to, food service workers. And not only was there positive feedback from the, training manager in residential facilities, but the learners were reporting that they were experiencing meaningful impact, not only in the workplace, but on their lives. There was a question. Okay, Dan looks like he's answering. Was the class taught with a live instructor in person or just EnGen? So the workplace English program, we've seen it in multiple different options. Some of them did have live instructors, and that champion is so important. We have some employer partners who actually have hired in adult education teachers so that they now have internal positions who are able to facilitate those live training experiences while also leveraging self-paced learning. And let me just see some of the questions. I like to pause and see. So how many hours using EnGen per week per student? There's a lot of variation there. We always recommend that learners are completing at least an hour in the platform every week, regardless of whether that is the only intervention or whether it's used as homework or supplemental training. This just breaks down some of the detail on in a hospital system program. And this does bring in an adult education partner for support in a language lab and case management. And these workers, mostly coming from environmental services, they had so many different interests. Some of them were actually foreign trained healthcare professionals. Some of them were interested in allied health career pathways. Others wanted, the hospitality content, the business English content. So in a workplace program, just like in an adult education program, you're going to see a great deal of diversity amongst the learner population. And that's where a flexible tool that has so many different pathway offerings can deliver a lot of value directly to the students. This screenshot just shows you some of the 72 courses in the platform that range from English for business, customer service in different contexts, English for certified nursing assistants. These are just some examples. So you do have the ability to build different career pathway programs. And learners have the ability to not only prepare and improve their English, but they can understand, cross-cultural communication skills, interview skills, and workplace communication. I do want to highlight these two courses that are very useful in manufacturing settings and e-commerce warehousing. We created courses that provide an introduction to the technology, the responsibilities, and then in the introduction to warehouse machinery, this starts learners understanding the language they'll need to understand safety and operations. And there's even more content that's relevant in that OSHA General Industry Safety course. Healthcare career pathways. This is an area that we've continued to add new content. We just launched that pharmacy technician pathway. Earlier this year, we added patient care and support. Also, right now, we're working on basic life support and CPR, phlebotomy, and HIPAA. So again, learners can, in a healthcare workplace, even if they're not in a patient care role, they can gain some of the English skills that will make them more valuable and able to connect to internal training opportunities. This just provides some detail on the digital literacy pathway that can be leveraged. Again, on a mobile device, learners can connect with basic computer skills, internet skills, email, and internet safety. There's even some courses on troubleshooting. And this is one example. So at EnGen, we have partnered with the Peninsula Regional Educational Program. This is in Virginia. One of the first steps that they started using EnGen to help in their ESOL classes that had a workforce readiness component. They actually had the learners studying 2 hours per week. Then in the winter, they launched boot camps in different sectors. So they were leveraging the tech content, the manufacturing logistics content, and the pharmacy tech content. The other allied health content. And the intention of this program is to help those learners to make that transition so that they can, enter the community college prepared to succeed, earn that certificate. And they're actually already seeing learners who are earning those certificates. And in Virginia, through the Ready to Work program, they actually can get that tuition supported. So again, we want to support and upskill learners. We have technology that can be leveraged to help those learners to prepare for the jobs of the future, which are here right now. I want to talk about what's measured in the program so that you can understand in the administrative tool what you can see. So time on task, which is the single biggest predictor of success. You also can see proficiency improvement over time. There's performance in the end of unit achievement tests, which that course completion and the end of unit achievement tests, that's what allows a career transition program to understand, is someone ready to enter that certificate or IET program? Also, learners have the opportunity to, share satisfaction and understanding, does this relate to their goals, the real world tasks that they want to accomplish. Measuring all of these things is going to be critical to funding, scaling your program, and also recruiting and retaining learners. So just to recap, there's a real opportunity to close that gap right now between English's, ESL programs and ESOL programs into job trainings, and to the extent that we can accelerate that journey, the learners will directly benefit. Technology can streamline implementation across different sectors. It can drive efficiency and scale. It offers flexibility to learners and the ability for programs to really measure efficiency and outcomes. Digital literacy training is no longer an optional element to programs. I really feel like it should be provided upfront, and more programs are doing that. The more that career training programs can be tailored to the needs of English language learners and on-ramps can be built, the more successful those learners will be in those programs. Employers are realizing that they need to upskill employees, they need to retain them, they need to provide new hires with English skills, but they can really benefit from how to get started, how to maintain these programs by partnering with adult education providers. So really think about how you're starting to speak the language of employers. And let's see if there are any questions.
And there was a question that we kind of skipped over, and it was from Mary. And she said, how many months does it take to accomplish, to complete 155 units and to make that 84% gain?
Okay, so, proficiency gains are different based on each learner. What we will say is that beginners are able to make proficiency gains more quickly than, say, an intermediate level learner. It does take longer. So let's just think about how we break up learning into different modules. So a Voxy EnGen lesson is composed of 3 activities, and a lesson can be completed in 5 to 8 minutes. It depends on the learner, but these are meant to be micro learning experiences. Units are made up of anywhere from 10 to 20 lessons. So just by doing the math, that's going to take, let's say, 1 to 2 hours based on whether it's a 10 or 20 lesson unit. And then courses are comprised, of anywhere from 20 lessons for some of the, mini courses, up to, 100 or more lessons. So it really does depend on the learner, the proficiency level, but we do try to break these up, and the lessons can be completed in less than 10 minutes.